All right. Welcome, guys, back to another interview. Today we have Dave Fuller. I'm going to go ahead and let you just kind of give us your background and then who you work for and then what you guys offer powder coaters.
Sure. I guess the best way to start with my background is just tell a quick story about my mom when I was like 3 years old, because I would like cut out a picture of a paper airplane without ever drawing it. And that's what David could do, is he can just see the stuff in his head and just make it happen. So that translated really well. 30 some odd years later, when I started working for Viadon, and I do all our custom design for both die cuts and molded parts. And then of course we sell, masking for, caps and plugs and the tapes of things for high temperature and chemically resistant applications.
Okay. So how long have you been with Viadon?
So let me see, this is 2024, so 21 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm tire.
What's that?
I'm the newest hire.
Oh, really?
Everyone's been there longer than me.
That's wild. They must have a very good culture there then.
Yes, we do.
Give us just a general overview of the company, maybe the backstory, like how long they've been around, how you guys got into masking, what industries you serve. Obviously, you offer it to powder coaters, but I'm sure liquid and all that stuff too. So give us a general overview of Viadon and like their history and where they're at today.
Sure. Our general manager, Susie, her stepmom owned called Koat, and kind of did like packaging tape and that kind of thing. There was this opportunity to be able to purchase some equipment that would do the powder of converting, or I should say, really the masking type of conversion for the tapes and into slit rolls as well as cuts. So when we add the caps and plugs, comes kind of a full service thing for those industries. It's kind of a sister company to Koat. It eventually did split off from me, and we've just always focused on really custom converting. Is such a generic thing, but the converting aspect is, we take the big rolls of tape. They come as wide as 58 inches wide, and then we either slit the tape rolls that people down to like 1/8 of an inch, or any size in between. We've got 2 digital slitters that can do that, and then we've also got 2 die cutting machines for rotary die cutting. So we make, the tape discs and things, and I can't pull this off easily. The discs or squares or any other shape you can dream up, and then we also have an overhead which can make either simple die cuts like this out of like silicone rubber, and then we can laminate the tape onto the release liner, and that's gives us the ability to take tapes that don't normally come on a liner and make it into different types of shapes that people would use to be able to quickly mask. We serve powder coaters, e-coaters, wet spray painters, anodizers, platers, and then it gets a little bit more specialized in things like thermal and some other stuff. There's some aerospace type things that we do that have to do with these kinds of die cuts, but that's the general overview without getting into the weeds too much.
Right. So in your masking materials, obviously, like I know on my side, when we're masking bolts and stuff like that, we're using silicone caps. We use tape sometimes to mask off like threads and stuff, or big flat surfaces that are machined and that sort of thing. Something I think a lot of the younger powder coaters who watch my channel, they may not understand like what product is best for what, because there's different temp ratings for tape. There's different types of tape, like you see the green, what is it, poly something or another, and then there's polyester. And then you've got like the fabric tapes and all the stuff that, unless you like really get into it, can you kind of explain like the most commonly used masking products, and then what the purpose is? Why are there different ratings on tapes and stuff?
Sure. Yeah, mostly the differences have to do with the temperature rating. So the most popular one is the green powder coating tape that you can find in lots of different places. This, regardless of who sells it, it's pretty much going to withstand 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So that covers a lot of the powder coating type situations that most people are going to run into. So I mean, we sell like acres of this stuff. It's how
Right.
much.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all we use.
Yeah. So, and that's what most people are going to go. There's occasions when the oven is either at a higher temperature because you have to get the part up to the part mean temperature fast. So you're boosting the oven temperature, and the tape can't necessarily withstand that. So then there's an orange one that we sell that goes to 425, gives you a little extra headroom, not too much more expensive, which is helpful. Because then they start to get expensive
Right.
when you get into either the polyimide tape, which is sometimes called Kapton, but that's like a DuPont, specific brand name. So
Brand name.
polyimide is sort of the generic name. And then there's glass cloth. Both of these stand 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you got to go over 25, that's where those really become useful. I think the thing to remember with that is like the reason why the polyester tapes fail is because of the adhesive, because the silicone adhesive can still withstand. It's that the polyester itself starts to shrink.
Right.
So the polyimide and the tapes don't do that. Did I say polyimide or polyester? Polyester starts to shrink.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what we see a lot of times on especially thicker still is they'll start to curl back on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Luckily, we've already painted the part, so it's fine.
And even using the orange helps, especially when like a valve cover is probably the best example I can give. You got those wide circles around the outside, but then it's open in the middle. The tape around the outside is heating up at the same speed as the part, which is slow. That tape in the middle, it heats instantaneously, so then it starts to shrink, and then the rest of it is like, oh, I can't keep up, and it starts to shrink and fail.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. I never really thought about that. If it's not on the metal, it's gonna just go with the air temperature.
Correct. Yeah.
That's something I've never really thought about. Because I have noticed when you have that big void, you definitely have it pull apart there a lot quicker. And sometimes it'll still be on the edges of the metal. So, anything you want to mention about like different? I've noticed like with our silicone plugs that maybe I don't know the makeup of them, I guess, but some of them do a little bit better and they stay a little firmer in heat. Some don't. You guys have different products for like the plugs or the caps?
I think this is where the difference is that we found is that the quality of the silicone does make a difference. Most of them are coming from China. They just that's just kind of the way that is, unfortunately, just because of the cost. Our supplier, we have found people say like, hey, your plug's actually longer than other people's. We don't know why. And I think they do use a little bit better quality silicone, which we really just found that out like a few weeks ago. Someone said plugs are really last compared to other people's. We're like, oh, that's awesome. Good to know.
Yeah, that's something you can go to the market with.
Yeah. So, but the longer you have them in the oven and the higher heat that is applied to them, the shorter their lifespan is going to be.
Right.
And the more you abuse them, shoving them into a threaded hole that's got really edges, and then you yank them back out, they're also not going to last as long because they're getting tears in them and things like that. So that's.
Right. Is there a generic like lifespan on something like a silicone plug? Like I know I have some that I've probably used, I would easily say 100 times, and we're still eking by with them. We definitely need to replace them, but we tend to replace them more because they've been lost or trashed on accident or something than we do just because they don't function anymore. But have you guys studied that at all and seen like exactly how long a plug will last?
It varies so much from company to company. I mean, people literally use them a half a dozen times and they go, we're done. And that's very often a bigger company. They don't want to mess with having to, clean the plugs or whatever. They just toss them and say, that's the cost of what we do. And like, you're saying like you get 100 uses out of them. I mean, I've got like, yeah, we haven't ordered these plugs in 15 years. We might need to get some more. Like, maybe. But they're still working. So, and anodizing it lasts better. But I would say the best range I can give you to answer that is between a dozen and 5 dozen times, so 12 to 60 is usually a good. Yeah, if they're beyond that, you might want to think about
replacement. Yeah, we definitely need to figure out what size they all are and get some new ones. What with that in mind, what is the best way? Because in the forums, like on Facebook and stuff, you see like how people clean their plugs, and some people are like, I just put them in my jean pocket and they rub together and it comes off. Or people have tumblers. Do you have any tips for coders on how to clean them?
Uh, Years ago, someone gave us a tip on a chemical that they use. It's called SC200. I'm not even sure if it's still sold anymore, but they would dilute it like 50% in water, drop them in, leave them overnight. It would clean off the powder. Other people, they don't want to use any chemicals at all, tumbler thing, or they just literally sit there, with their
With our
hands and just
hands.
clean them off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish there was a great way to do that, but
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know if there was like a hack or something we can share. I think a lot of people have tried the majority of those, but I know the bigger we get and the more production work we do, we're using the hundreds, if not thousands. And it's like, you don't want to sit there with pay someone to clean them off by hand. So by the time you've paid their salary to do that, you could have just ordered a couple thousand.
Right.
More.
Yeah. A tumbler is probably the most popular way to do it.
Economical in the long run. Yeah. You talked about a little bit with your die cuts, but what customization like options do you guys offer for your products?
Something that a lot of people don't know about what we do is not only can we make custom plugs. I mean, this is like a pretty large custom cap that we've made, and then here's a little teeny tiny that we did also. Both of these were made with a single cavity tool. So instead of having to that is, makes nine. Oh, there's my dogs. Sorry.
You're fine.
9 or 16 or 25 parts at a time. This just makes a single. So if you only need 20 parts, 50 parts, 100 parts even, you can get a single cavity made. That lowers not only your tooling costs, but also, your overall costs. Your per piece price will be higher because I got to make one at a time. But overall, it's going to save money. So if you've got something where you go, you know what, it just helped to have something where we could just quick pop a big custom cap on that's got the handles, or, little tiny plug that matches a specific profile of this part, then we can do that relatively easily and not as much expense as people would think. I mean, the tooling might run $400, $500, $600 for something like that, which, a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's going to be $10,000. Like, no, it's not anywhere near that. So that's one way to, I think people don't know that we necessarily do that. So that helps to be that, oh gosh, I can get a custom part for, maybe $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 or whatever. And if that saves you time, and looking at like, okay, if I hand tape this, it takes, 45 minutes, which some companies actually do, or I can slap a cap on there in 30 seconds, which one is going to save you money over the course of how many parts you do.
And then do you guys keep those molds then, like if they ever need to reorder? So you have like just tons and tons of molds?
We don't have the molds in-house because again, it's done overseas. We can get molded parts made in the US or overseas.
Okay.
I will say that oddly enough is about
yeah, that's what I was going to say. How long would it take to get that shipped in then?
By the time we do, we have to add tariff, because that's a requirement, government, and we do the air freight to bring it in from over the Pacific Ocean. Usually we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. Usually we've gotten some stuff a little faster. Sometimes it takes a little longer depending on how complex it is, but that's about average. And in the States, you're looking at the same time frame, and that's just UPS ground to us,
right?
And it still takes as long.
So are they to get those made? Are they just sending drawings to you guys, and that's what you're using to create it?
Well, this is where that whole like David can cut out a paper airplane shape comes in. Is usually someone will send us a drawing and I need to mask this area. Like they usually don't know how to do it,
right? So
then Susie or Steph will come to me and say,
Here.
can you figure this out? And I go, okay. And 98% of the time we figure out a way to make. I mean, this is probably my most interesting.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
part.
Weird.
So, and I won't tell you exactly what this goes for, but what I can tell you is that anyone who's driving a Ford F-150 that is 2021 or younger, then this helped you with a part of your vehicle. So
yeah, so you sold a few. You sold a few of those then.
A little bit, yeah.
Good to know. um, so with the tapes, it's kind of the same thing. I assume with the customization is it instead of a 3D object though, you're just drawing it out, and then you guys, like you said, you can put them on the reels for them and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, and I think what to add to the knowledge of what we can do for masking to be easier for people is, if you need the part to be large and you want like a tab so that you can easily either pull it off of the liner or pull it off of the part after you've cured it. There we can very often do that. We can also do a liner, so the liner itself underneath the die cut is then split so you can peel and expose the adhesive.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to pull the parts off. There's different ways that we can do things that make your job faster, because no one says, wow, I want to do masking.
Right. Yeah. No, it's one of the jobs in the shop. Are there any new, and I don't know how much there could be, but is there any like new technology or any new developments in the masking world? Like, is there something we haven't really heard of or seen yet or anything like that?
I got to think about this. Not that I can really think of. I mean,
Okay.
silicone is, everyone always asks, like, is there something less expensive than silicone? We go, well, no, there's more expensive options than
Right.
silicone, but nothing less. I think where everything gets interesting is honestly on the powder, where, the cure temperatures are starting a little bit, but they're probably not enough to even get rid of, polyester. You'd still have to use a polyester anyway, because a paper tape won't be able to peel off and take the cured powder off the part.
Yeah. What's behind, like, I assume there's a special adhesive on them, on all the tapes so that you're not leaving the residue behind and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, most of these are a silicone-based adhesive.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the one that can higher temperatures. There are some rubber-based adhesives that will go up to about 400 degrees. They tend to get used in like mold making equipment. They're also more expensive because of how they have to manufacture them. I guess the interesting thing I could probably come up with is that this high temperature crepe tape, which usually gets used in like wet spray painting, and is cured at like 300 degrees or so. We did have a powder coater that was using die cuts of this material at like 450 degrees. And we were like, what are you doing? They're like, well, we just take it off while it's still hot. And I was like, but you can't take it off when it's cold, otherwise it's going to leave the adhesive on there. And they were like, no, we just remove it hot and it peels right off. We're like, okay, like if that works for you, cool.
Yeah, I know I had a painter who loved, we had some cloth sent to us, and it was so much easier to work with than the green stuff. So he liked to use it just because he could cut it better, and it wasn't like, I don't know, sometimes we just fumble with the tape trying to get it perfect around like circles or hard shapes or stuff like that. So he always liked that, but it did leave a residue behind. I'm like, you can't do this. Like,
yeah,
you're kind of defeating the purpose when you leave something behind there. But
the crepe tapes are easier. I guess the only other thing I could offer as an option is that there are some thinner polyester tapes. Like we got a yellow one and a blue one. They're not as thick as the green tape. So they do conform a little bit more around some of those complex surfaces, but they're not like your typical.
I think he liked how familiar it was to like a masking tape.
Plus, you can hand tear it.
Right. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I've seen a couple guys that have really nice reels for tape that they rip off, and they just line all the different widths up on it. And I'm like, man, I should get one of those, but we try to stay away from things we have to tape just because it takes forever. What's your guys' approach? Because there's a lot of masking options out there for coders. How do you guys stay competitive? How do you keep your prices where you're being competitive with all your competitors and all that stuff? While maintaining, making sure it's still a good product and that people are going to want to keep ordering.
One of the things we decision with early on was we were going to try to get as many American-made tapes as possible. So our green polyester tape is American-made. The orange high temp tape is American-made. Ton of glass cloth. Glass cloths here are American-made tapes. We've relationships with those vendors for literally decades. So that's one thing that helps. We buy a lot of that product from them. So they've been able to work with us and help keep costs down. And I think it's just kind of how I have everything set up to be able to work with customers too, because um, I think because we do, if someone wants a case or 5 cases of tape, we can, or like if you need something that's, well, Dave, I need, a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, but I only need like one roll of each. Oh, and a bag or two of plugs. Okay, like no problem. Like we can do that as long as your order's over $50. Like we've just always kind of that. So I think it's the service that people have probably gravitated to for us, that people coming back, because we're not trying to be the cheapest one out there. Like if that's all people are after, like I'm sure this. I mean, at some point you just have to say, this is my price.
Right.
I can't do lower than that. Like
Yeah.
people can always go less than you, but then they're gonna not be in business anymore.
Right.
So we just say, look, we are gonna try to ship your product the exact same day that you make the order, if possible. Even held UPS, from actually leaving. We're like, hold on 1 second, we're just box up this last one, and get it on the. We answer our phone on the first or second ring, and we answer emails like that. So
Yeah.
I think that's what people appreciate about us, is that we're going to respond to them, whereas some other companies, who's my salesperson this month?
Right. Right.
I don't know.
You guys obviously have a very tenured team, so you
Yeah.
you get to know them and build a relationship with them. That's for
Correct.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people that I've worked with for 2 decades, so
Right.
which is
Yeah,
nice.
it's wild. Do you have any like success stories or case studies that you can share with, like how maybe a crazy design or something that came up and how you like help the customer get the product that they needed to like either get a bunch of production done or save a bunch of money or whatever it may be?
I brought a whole bunch of things that I had to show and tell, and I didn't bring this one. I guess the best one that I can think of is the I work with an e-coater. They do the fuel tubes for a number of different cars, and they have to match off the bottom top of a part. So the problem is when they put it into an e-coat tank, obviously pressure as it goes into solution. The problem is that to the oven, all that air that's trapped inside, as as a powder coater, you heat that up, and then one end tries to pop off.
Yeah.
So they were figuring out a way to have 2 caps on there, and they didn't. They were like, well, do we clamp it? How do we? So the thing that I came up with is the idea of, if you've ever taken a glass of water, turned it upside down, and put it in, a tub of water, the water only goes so far, even though you're pushing it down. So what I did was I made an open cap. So when they put the cap in and drop the tube in, because it's capped at the top, their solution only goes up a couple inches. Tube that kind of goes up inside the part, but caps around the outside too. So when it dropped into the eco tank, it would only allow the eco up into the plug. Then when the oven, there was no air trapped because the bottom tube was open. So that was
Yeah, that's
moments
wild.
I had where.
Yeah, I'm not sure a lot of other masking companies would go through those extremes to be able to figure out a solution like that. So, you kind of already mentioned, it's your customer service that sets you guys apart. As far as having like products available and stuff like that, like, do you guys have a warehouse? For the listener or viewers, where are you guys located? What kind of stuff is constantly in stock, that sort of thing? Because I know I've ordered a couple times from you guys, and we maybe ordered a ton of certain size plugs, and we've had to wait for a couple here and there. But for the most part, you've had everything we've needed. But give us an idea of like how big of a facility you guys have and how much you keep on hand for coders.
We are located about 40 miles south of Chicago, in a little town called Viadon, and our section of the building that we're in, I think we're about 15,000 square feet. So in the back, we've got the 2 slitters, 2 die cutting machines, along with the laminator, and then the front section is mostly caps and plugs and things. So I'm not sure how to even like how we've got that set up. But I mean, there's just, we have a number of shelves that have all that available. We have the excess stock for certain plugs that people use a lot of. But we've got these bins that just we can easily capture stuff as we need it, and then we've got also shelves that have a bunch of the discs and things to go to. I'm not sure.
What's your turnaround time like on custom die cut stuff?
Usually, like once we have the order from a customer, the tool does need to get made. So the timing on that is only about a week and a half. But once we have a tool in stock, like more, we usually get those out either same day or next day.
Oh wow! So that is it a typical 8-hour shift you're running in there to process
About that,
those?
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
5 days a week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. It'd be neat to. I don't know if you guys ever do videos, but it'd be kind of cool to show that machine and how it works and all that.
Actually, if you look at our YouTube channel, which there's some very old videos that I did, you'll probably
Okay.
see me.
I'll attach that down in the notes, but yeah, it'd be neat to see that. I guess I haven't really ever searched for masking companies on YouTube before.
It's not one of the first things people are searching for. That's for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any other comments or anything you want to share about Viadon or what you guys offer to coders?
I think. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, your typical viewer. I mean, they're probably going to be smaller job shops, right? That are and stuff that changes every week, not necessarily the same things all the time. I think the best thing I maybe suggest is just we've tried to offer a couple of that make it easier, so you don't have to have 20 different plugs or 40 different caps. Like these plugs are anti-flange plugs, so if something that's got either a chamfer at the top, or you just need a plug that'll work in a bunch of different hole sizes. There's like 3 sizes of these. They'll work from anything from like, a quarter of an inch up to like a half inch.
Yeah,
and then you can just
I don't think I've
even
ever seen those before. So
yeah, so then there's just they're pretty cool because especially for when you have to mask that first thread. If you're using a regular tapered plug, you get that kind of ridge that powder
right on
creates.
that, right in there. Yeah.
Right. Trying to clean it. These ones actually help keep that from
out of there
forming in the first place because you can pop that flange down there. The other one we've got is an external plug, and this might be hard to see in my camera, but it's got 2 ribs at the end, and then it's wider at the end. So what that allows is we've got 5 sizes of those. You can go anywhere from like 1/8 of an inch up to almost 3/4 of an inch for different caps, and then you just pop. It'll expand at the bottom and it'll still allow different sizes in the top.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
The one thing you have to be watch for, we kind of talked about this earlier, about the air getting trapped, is because he's 1.5 long. Some people will, put him on a short stud, and then the air gets trapped, and then it pops up, causes effect. The easiest way to do that is use scissors and just cut the top, and then that makes a little valve the air can burp out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't pop off as easily.
We've had issues with we have a small conveyor system and we have parts that we're capping those threads off, and sometimes the water from the sprayer will get in there if we cap beforehand, and then it'll boil out into the paint.
Oh yeah.
And ruin it, so it'll come back out the bottom and right where you painted the part and ruin it.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen a lot, but that'd probably help a little bit too if you put a slit in there because as it heats up, it should kind of push it out in that dry cycle. So
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. So I think that's all the questions I have for you. I don't know if you had anything else you want to add. Down in the comments, we'll put your guys' contact information, website, YouTube. If you have any other links, feel free to send them to me and then we'll attach those too. But were you guys doing an offer or something for the customers?
Yeah. So anyone who's watching this video, if you're a first-time customer for us, we'll either send you 2 rolls of green polyester tape for free with any $50 or more. Or if 1 inch is not as useful for you and you want to get a 2-inch wide roll, we'll send you a 2-inch roll for free as well. And use the promo code right now.
There we go.
And that will let us know that, we'll is free on your invoice. And we try to keep that $50 minimum order since 2000 when we started too. So inflation's gone up, we've still kept a
Yeah.
low minimum order.
Which isn't that bad, and you can pick up quite a bit of stuff that you'll use down the road for that.
Exactly.
So, and that's a nice thing I like about plugs is you can get so many of them and it doesn't really cost a lot. So if you're going to order, might as well get a $50, $60 order in and get a bunch of stuff that will keep you going down the road. So
yeah, and if you want to try like a bunch of different tapes and see how they work for you, I mean, we'll send you one roll of each one if you want. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Dave, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk with me. We haven't had a lot of vendors on, so it's nice to get some on here. You know, the goal of my channel has always been to help coders and them find the products and or services that they need to help them do a better job. And I know we've used you guys quite a bit, so I appreciate all your guys' help. And yeah, with that, I'll let you get out of here.
Well, you know, I'm glad to help, and that's, I think, the thing that I might advise about us is that if you ever have how do I do this faster? You know, just give us a call or shoot us an email. And, you know, if you got a photo or something, that helps us. And then we can go, oh, like, do it this way. And maybe that speeds up your time frame. So then you guys can save money and, you know, do for your customers too.
Yep. And I will have all of your contact information down below, Dave. So they'll be able to contact you directly. Hopefully they don't boil up your email box too much.
That's okay.
That's a good thing, right?
Susie too, right? Yeah.
We can do that too. We can make both of you go. All right. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Yep.